Hello there! Welcome to Guitar Building with Gleb. Today is a special day. Finally, we are starting to put in the hardware on this guitar. And we'll start with the frets. Let's do it. In preparation for this day, I spent the whole day yesterday sorting out this guitar, sanding it down to 120, 240, 400, some places like fretboard 800 grit sandpaper. And after that, it's now super smooth. It's pretty much perfect. I mean, you could probably go even higher, 1000, 2000 grits, which is, I guess, not required for this type of guitar. I really like the finish and it's really smooth. And now the guitar is basically in its final shape. We are not going to do pretty much anything else with the wood. So now we can safely put in the frets. Putting in the frets is not an easy task. And usually the frets is what makes a difference between a good guitar and a perfect guitar. And to achieve that difference, you need all sorts of tools, as you see here. So we got our fretting hammer, we got a marker, a lot of things. Polishing the frets, fret ruler, notch straight edge, fret rocker here, the frets, the fret leveling beam, all sorts of stuff. And we're going to use all of these. Now, there are probably many tutorials on YouTube on how to fret a guitar. I'm just going to show you how I do it. And then if you have some critique, feel free to leave it down in the comments. But yeah, let's do it, I guess. It's going to be fun. It's not my first time doing it, so I think everything will go just fine. Before putting in the frets, you kind of have to set the stage. And there are two main things I would say that are important to do. First, you need to make sure that your fret slots are the correct depth for the frets that you have. So you see, this is how each fret looks like. This is a fret, and it's kind of a mushroom shape. And this fret tang is what's going to go inside the guitar. And on the side, you see these triangular shapes. They're aimed downwards. So it's basically like a fish hook. So once you put it in, it's not going to come out. It's a very genius design, I think. And so we need to make sure that our fret slots are at least the depth of this tang. And I mean, ideally you would want to use a fretting saw, but in my case I just have this saw. And this fretboard that I used, it was pre-slotted. And once I was radiusing it, the depth of the fretboard changed a little bit. So after that I just went in with a saw like so and make sure that the frets are the correct depth. I already did that, so that's all sorted. It was just a very easy process. Now, second one that I mentioned, using this triangular file, we are just going to slightly extend or widen the top of the fret slots. And this way it will be much easier for the frets to go in. So you just take this little thing, you take your fret, and then you go like so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just very lightly. And then just repeat the process for all the frets. So let me do that, and then I'll get back to you. Now that the frets are prepared, we can start putting in the frets. Let's start with the fret number 1. Let me quickly cover two methods that I will be using. First is traditional with a fretting hammer, and another one which is kind of what I came up with. So I purchased this little brass thing with which usually press the frets, so that's what they're using on industrial plants. And I just bought this little thing, and then I came up with this kind of fixture using the clamp, and I'm hoping it will work. It will make my life easier, but let's see. So let's get to it. I'll just put this somewhere here, and here's our first fret. Needs to go here. I'll probably start with a few hits of the hammer, and then I'll switch to this jig. So I'll start on the outside and work my way in. So now that it's kind of in there, I think I want to try and go in with this thing. It's my first time, so I have no idea how it will go, but I'm hoping this should make things a little bit easier. Yes and no. Okay, let's roll back. I mean, it did kind of work. It's not all the way in, but it's mostly in. It's just sticking a bit right here. Yeah, I mean, that's great. Let me show you up close. I probably need to adjust it just a little bit because it's too high here. But I think this machine that I developed, I think it worked. So let's do more of that. So after a little bit of fine tuning, we've got a nicely put in fret. Now repeat the same process 24 times, or 23 because one is already done. So 23 more times. Whew, gotta get to it. I mean, okay, that's probably enough footage already. I'm just going to do this more and more and more. And then if you're wondering why I'm putting this protection, it's because this thing, it's kind of sharp, and then if it touches the fretboard, it's going to ruin all the hard work. So I'm not taking my chances and trying to protect the fretboard as much as I can. But other than that, I'll just do it more and more and more. So see you on the other side. An effort and fine-tuning everything. We got our frets. Ooh. So I ended up going back and forth with this DIY fret inserting jig and the fretting hammer, you know, just putting everything in, and it's looking good. Now you see the frets are hanging a bit over the fretboard, so now we got to tackle that. So how are we going to tackle the excess fret wire hanging on the side? With a tool that was made just for this job. So you see, it's a normal radius block, but it has a file on the side, and it's gonna do it really well. It's my first time using this tool, so let's see how it goes. Essentially, we are running along the fretboard and taking just the side of the frets. A quick update on removing the fret ends. When you start to see rosewood on the side, or whatever the material on your fretboard is, it means that you're almost there and you're starting to hit it. Now, to make this comfortable to play, we actually want kind of a bevel on the side. So I'll continue just a little bit until I have a few millimeter bevel on the side. Hey, and then same thing again on the other side. Hopefully you can see what I just mentioned. So you see it's not just straight, it has a bevel on the side. So if you look from the side, it's like a bit of a cut corner per se. So, and this bevel, oh yeah, you can kind of see it here. It goes along the whole fretboard up to there. And this will make the guitar easier to play for the player. It's always a good thing. So this is what we've got after a little bit of back and forth. The frets are no longer hanging on the side. They're flush with the fretboard. Now I really start to feel we are going to finish soon. This is a good feeling. However, still more things to do. If I touch the frets right now, okay, I can give you an example. Okay, it's not really scratching me, but it's really sharp. So now we are going to tackle these sharp ends. Again, this is not something that is usually done on budget or cheap guitars, but on high-end expensive guitars, the fret work, it's really important. And you know, any player to whom you would give the guitar would notice it straight away. A good fret work or bad fret work. And we're gonna make a good one, perfect one if we can. Okay, next thing here, I was not entirely sure whether it was going to work, but it seems that it does. You see here we have still these holes. You don't want the holes because, you know, the dirt from fingers and whatnot, it's going to get there, so we gotta cover them somehow. I want to tackle that with super glue. It occurred to me that to reach the desired effect, I really should be using some rosewood sawdust that I collected. So I take a little bit of sawdust, I kind of hover it over my hole, rub it in, so you see no hole anymore, it's filled with dust, and then a bit of super glue, just like a little drop, just big enough to cover it all. Boom, boom. Okay, this was more like 2 drops. But now it's covered, and then once it's dried, I'll just go over with some sandpaper or some sanding file and then file it off, and we should have basically a blocked hole. So yeah, this was the effect that I was after. After all this time, we got 48 closed off side channels or side holes. Still some super glue left, so now I got to remove the super glue and let's see what we got. Okay, after going back and forth, this is what we've got. The closed off side channels. I'm trying to make you see it. Hopefully you can see it. It's nice and black and we don't have holes on the sides anymore. If I'm not mistaken, now it's time to do some fret work. Leveling the frets, crowning, all that sort of stuff. Whew, I'm a bit tired, but hopefully I can do it today. Leveling the frets. First and foremost, we need to make sure that our neck is straight. No straight edge. Adjustment. So we are straight because I adjusted it in advance, but then if your neck is not straight, just using the truss rod, just adjust the neck for it to be straight. Next, masking off the fretboard to prevent any unwanted damage, because it's in its final shape. So now that the sides are masked off, we're gonna mask off the top. Top is actually much simpler. You just take little stripes as close to the fret as you can, and then mask it like so. That piece is a bit too tiny. No, actually it's perfect. Okay. So gotta do the same for every one of them. Hey. Now that everything is masked off, we are going to take a black marker and mark the top of all frets, every single fret. And now that they're all masked off, I'm going to take my leveling beam and go over the frets. Let me get you in a bit closer. So there are some places like here that the marker is still left, which means it is a low spot. And basically I'm going to go back and forth. Okay, here is one more low spot. You cannot really see, but here is marker here. So I'm going to go back and forth until I have no more low spots left. Leveling beam, my friend, let's do it. Now that we have no black marker left, it means our frets are leveled, which is nice. However, if you see the top of the fret, it has this flat spot or trapezoid shape from the side. And we don't really want that. We want it to be rounded and nice. And to tackle this, I've got this nice tool. I'm just going to go over the top of the fret and it's going to round it over. And we're going to have nice round frets. And I have to do that 24 times. That's kind of the theme for today's video. Doing same thing over and over again 24 times. Again, I'm going to put some marker over the top of the fret. But our goal now is not to remove the marker altogether, but I'll put some protection over the fret, and then my idea is to, okay, that's too low. Okay, the idea is to have just this very thin line at the top of the fret. So once I do that, I'll demonstrate that to you. So a little bit more here. Okay, so as you see, compare this one and this one, all that is left is a thin black line. So that's what we are aiming for. Now again, the same thing 24 more times. Time lapse in 3, 2, 1. tool is game changing. I'm telling you, this is really nice. I used to use normal, files and whatnot to do the fret, but this tool, wow. And what else I discovered is that you can actually use this tool not only to crown the frets, but to kind of round over the edges, which I was going to use the file for, and it doesn't work super well. But with this tool, I actually rounded over the edges, and it's much better now. So there is still a little bit of cleanup to do, like dress up sharp edges, but I'm just going to file them a little bit and clean things up, and we'll see. We'll move to the next step, which I think we'll be sanding them, polishing them. Not fun, but I have to do it. A quick update: fret rocker can also be used as a polishing tool. Hey, polishing it up, and then I'll get back to you. Now, after several rounds of going in with different grit of sandpaper, I think it's looking okay and actually quite nice, but I think we can do even better. And for that matter, I've got the buffing wheel and some polishing compound over there, that green bottle. So we're gonna polish it up with this awesome little machine, which is probably going to make them really shiny and perfect. The best I can be. Let's do it. So we got our polishing compounds ready. I'm probably gonna pre-rub it into our thing. Oh, this might be a bit too much, but any excess we have is going to fly away. Okay, that seems to be good. Now, probably when I switch it on, it's going to start flying places. So let me just do it like this. Yeah, it's definitely flying. But yeah, let's do it. Just gonna quickly apply a little bit of that to each fret. So yeah, let's start with the first one. Let's quickly take a look at the results that we're getting. So this is, these are all frets before, and this is after. So apart from cleaning them, they're really smooth. So I think this thing is doing the job. So without bothering you too much, I'm just going to do this, a lot more time. So let me get back to you after I'm done. Okay, didn't expect it would take so long to take off the masking tape, but here we are. We've got a guitar with frets, so there is still some cleanup to do, but I think the next thing I would like to do is to stain this guitar, or paint it, color it, whatever you call it. It's going to be exciting! And I can't wait to do that. I don't know when I get time to do that, but when this happens, oh my god. So, as you notice, this build is approaching the end. I'm very excited. So, see you in the next one where we'll be coloring this awesome guitar.